What's up everybody, and welcome to today's Tableau walkthrough. In this video we're going to talk about date functions. Dates are a common element in many different data sources. If a field contains a recognizable date, Tableau is smart enough to identify it as a date or a date-time data type. And when data fields are used in a viz, they have a special set of functionality, which include something like called a date hierarchy, which means you can start with the year, drill down to the quarter, drill down to the month, and then the day, and so on and so forth. It also has different filter options and formatting options as well. But specifically when using dates can be used in many different forms within calculations. And that's what we're going to do today. So before we get started, let's first open our Tableau applications. Mine is already open. You should see a screen similar to this. Next thing you need to do is connect your data source. So to connect your data source, you navigate to the left panel, go to connect, scroll down to save data sources, and then click the sample superstore. So once we've clicked on the sample superstore data set, we can see that we have access to the data pane, and specifically we have access to our date fields. And to identify if a field is a date field or not, you can see it by this little calendar indicated next to both the ship date and the order date. These are the two fields that we're going to use in our demonstrations today. And speaking of our demonstrations, we're going to talk about two different date functions. The first one is going to be DATEDIFF. And we've done this in a previous video, but I'm going to do it again just in case you weren't too sure what was happening in the first video. So let's go into the DATEDIFF function. First, we need to create a calculated field. To create a calculated field, let's do it a different way than I'm typically used to. So I'm going to go to analysis on the toolbar, scroll down to create calculated field, and now you should be prompted with a box that looks similar to this. And let's say we wanted to calculate the difference between the order date and the ship date. So I'm going to start by naming the calculated field. You should always give some type of name to your variable or calculated field so that you can find it amongst other variables and fields and understand what it's actually doing. So I'm going to name it order until ship. And what this function is going to do is calculate the difference between the order date and the ship date so we could tell how long it took in order to get to a particular customer. So I'm going to first start by typing DATEDIFF, and then you'll see a lot of different date functions, but I'm going to click DATEDIFF. Date part refers to a specific component or element extracted from a date or timestamp value, and that's going to be day, so that's going to be the difference. So it could be day, month, year, but we're just looking at the number of days between each individual date. The start date is going to be our order date. Then our end date will be our ship. And let me go back because I feel like I went through that pretty fast. So if you do ship date, then I can press tab since I already know the ship date is the first one, and it will automatically populate ship date. And now our calculation is valid. I'm going to click OK. And now we see that this calculation is under our data pane. The next thing that we want to do is use the DATEADD function. The potential of using the DATEADD function in this particular case is to say that, say we wanted all our shipments to be done by a specific date, kind of similar to like the expected ship time or shipment time that you may see when you order from a particular store, like a Lululemon, for example. In this particular case, let's create DATEDIFF function to create the date that we expect the shipment to be delivered by. So I'm going to hit the drop down arrow next to the data pan, hit create calculated field. This is going to be my estimated ship date. To estimate it, we need to use that DATEADD function. So we're going to use DATEADD. The date part is going to be in days. So if you look at this DATEADD function, the example says whatever date part is going to be the value that you add to a particular date. So it can be days, month, year. The next thing is how many, either months or days, based on the date part variable that you decide to use. And then the last part is going to be the actual date that you're adding the value to. So the first thing that we're going to do is day. The next thing we're going to say is, say we want the expected shipment date to be 14 days after the order date. So we need to do 14 days, assuming that it may be holidays or the weekend. So it's typically like 5 to 7 business days, but let's say 14 days for this particular example. And then we do a comma, and then we add order date. So this is going to give us 14 days after the order date. It says our calculation is valid, and then we hit OK. And now we have a new date variable called the estimated ship date. So now how do we visually see it? Let's say we want to create a little visualization so that we can see if our ship date is actually before the order date, and actually also see how the order until ship, how long did it take for a particular order to ship to a customer. So to do this, I am going to look at individual customers, drag customers to the rows shelf. And now you see all the customers' names that has ordered from our sample superstore. But I want to look at Aaron Bergman, for example. And to do that, I am going to navigate to the rows shelf, hover over the customer name. I am going to left click and also hit Control or Command for Mac users. Drag that into the filters shelf. Now, just make sure you select only Aaron, because it's a lot of data in this data set and we just want to narrow down to just one customer. We can see at the bottom that we have 800 customers, but we're only going to look at one. And you see it's blank. The reason is because I didn't hit Control correctly. I was supposed to hit Control before. But now we can hit Control, drag it back over, and we should be fine here. The next thing we want to do to just see the orders, let's say we want to just add the text to the March card. So this will give us the sum of the order date, but we don't really care about the sum. We want to see more so the average. So if we hit the drop down arrow, go down to measure where sum is, and then we actually change it to average. But then we just want to look at the ship date and the order date. So let's drag the order date here. It's going to be a lot of moving parts. And drag the order date here means dragging the order date to the rows shelf. And now it's going to show us the year, but we actually want to look at on the individual day level. So this is like a 2 or 3 step process that you got to follow me along. We're going to do this several times and it'll become repetitive, but it would actually become more natural to you. So to change it to the actual day, where I want to see the month, the year, and the day, we have to hit the drop down arrow scroll down to the second day, which is our continuous variable, and it's going to automatically change to continuous. So we click that, and then we need to change it back to discrete. So we hit the drop down arrow again, scroll down all the way to the end and hit discrete instead of continuous. So you see that dot says that it's continuous. We need to actually change it to discrete. And now we have the order date. Then let's look at the ship date. To look at the ship date, we're going to drag the ship date over to the rows shelf. It automatically defaults to year. We're going to do the same process we did with the order date. So drop down, click day, then we drop down again, click discrete, and now we have the ship date. And then let's add estimated ship date. So the estimated ship date, we're dragging that to the row shell. We're going to hit the drop down, hit day. Going to hit the drop down again next to the estimated ship date, hit discrete, and now we have all the information that we care about related to this particular customer. We have the order date, the ship date, and the estimated ship date for all his orders, and we even have the order until ship. So it seems like all these values are less than 14, which is ideal for our company. And if any value was over 14, we may need to look into it and see some process improvement management for our particular company. Now we've created functions and used some different date fields to do some calculations. Let's call this sheet date by just scrolling down to the bottom, right next to data source, double clicking, typing date, press enter, it changes our title, and now you know how to use different date functions in Tableau. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.